Long before the arrival of Europeans, the lands we now call Canada were teeming with life and vibrant cultures. For thousands of years, diverse indigenous peoples thrived across these vast territories. From the Haida-Gwaii to the icy Arctic, distinct indigenous nations developed unique traditions, languages, and governance systems. These societies lived in harmony with nature, their lives intrinsically connected to the land and its resources. They were skilled hunters, fishers, and gatherers, with deep spiritual beliefs that honored the interconnectedness of all living things.
Indigenous peoples had sophisticated systems of governance and trade. They developed complex social structures, often based on kinship ties and clan systems. These societies possessed rich oral histories, passing down knowledge, traditions, and stories from generation to generation. Their artistic expressions, from intricate carvings to captivating storytelling, reflected their profound connection to the land and their spiritual beliefs. The legacy of these ancient cultures continues to shape Canada's identity today. Their traditional knowledge, particularly in areas like environmental stewardship, holds valuable lessons for contemporary society. As we delve into Canada's history, it's crucial to recognize and respect the enduring presence and contributions of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Their story is woven into the very fabric of Canada, and their voices must be central to any discussion about the nation's past, present, and future. The late 15th century marked a turning point in the history of the Americas, with European powers venturing across the Atlantic in search of new trade routes and opportunities. This era of exploration was driven by a desire for wealth, power, and the spread of Christianity. European nations, including Spain, Portugal, France, and England, were eager to expand their empires and influence. This period of exploration had profound and lasting consequences for the indigenous peoples of the lands that would become Canada. The arrival of Europeans brought significant changes to indigenous societies, including new technologies, goods, and ideas. However, it also introduced new challenges and threats to their way of life. The arrival of European explorers, beginning with John Cabot's voyage in 1497, initiated a new era of contact and exchange. Cabot's journey was soon followed by other explorers, such as Jacques Cartier and Samuel de Champlain, who further established European presence in the region. These early encounters were often marked by curiosity and mutual interest. However, this encounter also set in motion a complex and often tragic chain of events that would forever alter the course of Canadian history. The initial curiosity and cooperation between Europeans and Indigenous peoples gradually gave way to conflict, exploitation, and colonization. The balance of power shifted as Europeans sought to dominate and control the land and its resources. Early interactions between Europeans and Indigenous peoples were often marked by a mix of curiosity, trade, and conflict. While some relationships were mutually beneficial, others were fraught with misunderstandings and violence. The exchange of goods, such as metal tools, weapons, and textiles, had a significant impact on indigenous societies. European explorers sought furs, fish, and other resources, establishing trading posts and settlements that gradually encroached on indigenous territories. These trading posts became centers of economic activity and cultural exchange, but they also represented the growing European influence and control over indigenous lands. The fur trade, in particular, became a driving force in the relationship between Europeans and indigenous peoples. The demand for beaver pelts in Europe fueled a lucrative trade network that spanned the continent. Indigenous hunters, trappers, and traders played a crucial role in supplying furs to European markets. Indigenous hunters, with their intimate knowledge of the land and its resources, played a vital role in the fur trade's growth. They navigated vast territories, trapping animals and preparing furs for trade. This economic activity brought wealth and new goods to indigenous communities, but also created dependencies on European trade. However, this economic partnership also led to dependency and the overhunting of certain fur-bearing animals, disrupting traditional indigenous economies and ways of life. The depletion of animal populations forced indigenous peoples to adapt their hunting practices and seek alternative sources of sustenance. The arrival of European diseases, such as smallpox, had devastating consequences for indigenous populations who lacked immunity to these new illnesses. These diseases spread rapidly, causing widespread mortality and suffering. Entire communities were decimated, and the social fabric of indigenous societies was severely weakened. Epidemics swept through communities, decimating populations and weakening social structures. The loss of life and the disruption of traditional ways of living had long-lasting effects on indigenous cultures and their ability to resist European encroachment. Despite these challenges, indigenous peoples demonstrated resilience and adaptability, navigating the complexities of this changing world while striving to preserve their cultures and identities. They found ways to maintain their traditions, languages, and social structures, even in the face of immense pressure and adversity. Their enduring spirit continues to shape the cultural landscape of Canada today. As European settlement expanded across North America, the seeds of a new nation began to take root in the northern territories controlled by Great Britain. These early settlers faced numerous challenges, from harsh climates to unfamiliar landscapes, but their determination laid the foundation for what would eventually become Canada. By the mid-19th century, the British colonies in North America faced a confluence of factors that fueled the movement toward Confederation. The colonies were diverse, each with its own unique economic and social structures. Yet they shared common challenges that necessitated a unified approach. Political deadlock in the province of Canada, economic challenges, and the looming threat of American expansionism all contributed to a growing sense that a united front was necessary. The American Civil War had demonstrated the volatility of the region, and there was a palpable fear that the United States might turn its expansionist ambitions northward. Confederation, the process of uniting these disparate colonies into a single dominion, was a complex and challenging endeavor. The Fathers of Confederation, a group of visionary leaders, met in a series of conferences to negotiate the terms of this union. Their debates were intense, and the compromises they reached were hard-fought. On July 1, 1867, the British North America Act came into effect, officially uniting Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and the province of Canada, which was then divided into Ontario and Quebec, into the Dominion of Canada. This act was a monumental step in the creation of a new nation, providing a framework for governance and laying the groundwork for future expansion. This momentous event marked the birth of Canada as a nation. Celebrations erupted across the newly formed Dominion with parades, gatherings, and the raising of the first Canadian flags. It was a time of great optimism and hope for the future. Sir John A. Macdonald, Canada's first Prime Minister, played a pivotal role in guiding the country through its early years. His leadership was instrumental in navigating the young nation through its formative challenges and setting a course for its development. His vision of a transcontinental railway intended to connect the vast expanse of Canada and foster economic growth became a defining endeavor of his leadership. The railway was not just a means of transportation, it was a symbol of unity and progress, binding the country together from coast to coast. Confederation was not without its critics, and the process was fraught with debate and compromise. Many were skeptical of the benefits of union, fearing the loss of local autonomy and the imposition of new taxes. Political cartoons of the time often lampooned the process, reflecting the contentious nature of the discussions. The inclusion of Indigenous peoples in the new nation was largely overlooked, and their treaty rights were often disregarded as the government pursued westward expansion and resource development. This oversight would have lasting repercussions, as Indigenous communities struggled to have their voices heard and their rights respected. Despite its imperfections, Confederation laid the groundwork for the development of Canada as a democratic, pluralistic, and increasingly independent nation on the world stage. The early years were marked by growth and change, as the new country began to define its identity and place in the world. The legacy of Confederation is a testament to the vision and determination of those who believed in the potential of a united Canada. and military prowess. These battles were not only significant military victories, but also pivotal moments in the formation of Canada's national identity, as the bravery and sacrifices of Canadian soldiers became a source of immense pride for the nation.